The grammar translation method. It's the topic for this video today, and I'm going to read this special book that I have in my hand. Actually, I'm using this book. The title is Teaching by Principles: An Interactive Approach to Language Pedagogy. Let's try to read something about this here. I'm using this book just to practice English, reading and speaking, but the almost part of those my videos, it's about reading. And now I'm reading the chapter 4, the book. The title of book is Teaching by Principles: An Interactive Approach to Language Pedagogy. But I didn't start in the first unit, in the first chapter. I start in the chapter 4, a methodical history of language teaching. A methodical history of language teaching. And so for me it's very important as a student, as a student of English, it's very important to practice the English, because I don't use an English in my day. It's not normal for me, and so it's really difficult to improve in English. And so I think it's nice when I try to, or when I record this one video by week, just trying to reading and speaking too. The grammar translation method. Let's start the text. Let me see. Okay, we have here a big test. A historic sketch of the last 100 years of language teaching really must be set in the context of a prevailing customary language teaching tradition. For centuries there were few theoretical foundations of language learning upon which to base teaching methodology. In the Western world, foreign language learning in school was synonymous with the learning of Latin or Greek. Latin, though to promote intellectually, though mental gymnastics, was until relatively recently held to be indispensable to an adequate higher education. Latin was taught by means of what has been called the classical method. Focus on grammatical rules, memorization of vocabulary and of various declension of and conjugations, translation of texts, doing writing exercise. So here we have in this chapter, specific chapter number 4, a methodical history of a language teaching. We have a lot of methods. We have here a lot of methods. And so the first method here that we are going to learn, it's about the grammar translation method. This method, it's basically about grammar. Like I said, like I read here, focus on grammatical rules, memorization of vocabulary and of various declensions and conjugation, translation of texts, doing writing exercise. I think it's the oldest method, or the most useful method around the world for a long time, I think. But nowadays we have a lot of methods, or different methods that we use in education, when you have to learn something about languages. But okay, here we have the first method, and the name of this method is the grammar translation method. As other languages began to be taught in educational institutions of the the 18th and 19th centuries, the classical method was adopted as a chief means for teaching foreign languages. Little thought was given as the time to teaching someone how to speak the language. After all, languages were not being taught primarily to learn oral communication, but to learn for the sake of being scholarly, or in some instances for gaining a reading proficiency in a foreign language. Since there was little with any theoretical research on second language acquisition in general, or the acquisition of reading proficiency, foreign languages were thought on as any other skills was taught. Let me see here. Okay. The third paragraph. Until here I read the first paragraph, okay, and a kind of introduction, and the second paragraph talking about the idea that the classical method was adopted as a main teaching, as the chief means for teaching foreign languages. Let's start third paragraph. In the 19th century, the classical method came to be known as the grammar translation method. There was a little to distinguish grammar translation for what had gone on in a foreign language classroom for centuries beyond, a focus on grammatical rules as the basis for translating from the second to the native language. Remarkably, the grammar translation method withstood attempts at the turn of the 20th century to reform a language teaching methodology. And to this day, it is practiced in some isolated, or shall we say, enlightened education context. Prater and Mortia, and authors, 1979, listed the major characteristics of grammar translation. Now, let's see learn what is or which are the characteristics of grammar translation. Let's see, we have here 8 characteristics. Characteristic number 1. Classes are taught in the mother tongue. Classes are taught in the mother tongue with little active use of the target language. Okay, the first one. The second one. Much vocabulary is taught in the form of lists of isolated words. We have here isolated words to learn vocabulary. Characteristic number 3. Long elaborated explanations of the intricacies of grammar are given. Characteristic number 4 about this method. Grammar provides the rules for putting words together, and the instructions often focuses on the form and reflection of the words. Characteristic number 5. Reading of difficult classical testing is begun early. Characteristic number 6. Little attention is paid to the content of texts, which are treated as exercises in grammatical analysis. Characteristic, the last one, or no, it's not the last one. 7. Often the only drills are exercises in translating disconnected sentences from the target language into the mother language. And the last one, the last characteristic, little or no attention is given to pronunciation. And so we have here 8 characteristics of grammar translation. We can see the number 8, little or no attention is given to pronunciation. Okay, we saw here a lot of characteristics, and so I think it's really old because I think maybe it's not the best way to learn foreign language. Let's see now let's try to read two paragraphs. And now the paragraph number 1, the first paragraph, the second paragraph, the third paragraph, now the fourth paragraph. It is ironic that this method has until very recently been so stalwart among many repeating models. It does virtually nothing to enhance a student's communicative ability in this language. It is remembered with distance by thousands of school learners, for who foreign learning meant a tedious experience of memorizing an endless list of unusable grammar words and vocabulary and attempting to produce perfect translation of still or literature prose. Okay, and now the last one paragraph. On the other hand, one can understand why grammar translation is so popular. It's so popular. It requires few specialized skills on the part of teachers. Tests of grammar words and of translation are easy to construct and can be objectively scored. Many standardized texts of foreign languages still do not attempt to tap into communicative abilities, so students have little motivations to go beyond grammar analogies, translations, and rote exercises. And it is sometimes useful in leading a student toward a reading knowledge of a second language, but as Richard and Rogers 1986 point out, it has no advocates. It is a method for which there is no theory. It is a method for which there is no theory. There is no literature that offers a rationale or justification for it, or that attempts to relate it to issues in linguistic, psychology, or educational theory. As you continue to examine language teaching methodology in this book, I think you'll be understand more fully the theorylessness of the grammar translation method. And here I'm going to finish this video because I read a lot. Let me see, 12 minutes reading text in English, and try to say something about the text, the grammar translation method. We saw here that it's a popular method, but we have here we have problems maybe because according to Richard and Rogers, let's repeat this to finish this video. The main point out is it has no advocates. It has a method for which there is no theory. There is no literature that offers a rationale of justification for it, or that attempts to relate it to issues in linguistics by psychology or educational theory. The next video I'm going to talking about going and the series method. And thank you for watching this video until here. If you want to watch more videos, you can see this video about the change winds and shifting sands, or you can see my playlist here that I'm trying to build. There's a special playlist where I try to reading text in English because I'm learning, and I try to say something in English too. Thank you for watching this video again, and I see you the next week, Wednesday. It's the day that I try to upload a video about English. Thank you.